Want to know the top thrill rides in Disneyland Paris? We have you covered. Hi everyone, it's Adam from Disney. Whether you're a thrill seeker, prefer family rides, or you're in the parks for the food and characters, Disneyland Paris has something for everyone. In this video, we'll give you our top thrill rides. Let's get started. At number 5, it's Hyperspace Mountain. Starting life as the aptly titled From the Earth to the Moon, this Jules Verne themed Space Mountain ride opened in Disneyland Paris Park in 1995 and was rethemed temporarily back in 2017. This 1,000 metre long indoor coaster has a launch which takes you from 0 to 44 miles an hour in 1.8 seconds. This ride has 3 inversions and reaches up to 5 Gs. I love this ride, though I will admit the retheme leaves a lot to be desired and the ride can be a little rough in places. Hopefully this gets an overhaul of the theming in the future. I'd personally like to see it taken back to its original theme and maybe plus. This said, it's a solid coaster. Moving on to number 4, and we have Avengers Flight Force over in the Studios Park. Originally rock and roller coaster, the track and ride itself is identical to its Floridian sister. The difference here is the Avengers overlay. I have to admit the queue areas, the pre-show on this ride are great and the overall ride itself is absolutely thrilling. This will take you from 0 to 57 miles per hour in a 2.8 second launch, which is without a doubt the fastest and most thrilling launch of any of the Paris rides. As a fun fact, before Tron and the Guardians of the Galaxy ride opened, this was the fastest of all the Disney coasters, with the added plus that in Paris this ride often has a pretty short wait, so anything from 10 to 40 minutes, which I think is amazing. Next at number 3, it's Crusher's Coaster. This spinning Finding Nemo themed ride gets a bad rep for being small and over a little bit too quickly. It also often has a 2-hour plus wait, which can be off-putting. That said, this is a one of one. There are no equivalents or remakes of this ride in any other Disney theme park in the world, and I love the fact that Paris got something unique. This high-speed spinning ride includes a few drops that really have your tummy in your mouth. I'd love to see this ride plussed, as I think there's much more they could do inside the ride in terms of theming, which might be one for the future. Next, and it's a very close call between number 2 and number 1. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror comes in at number 2 by the skin of its teeth. This insanely detailed riding queue sees you stepping into a maintenance service elevator and taking a trip to the Twilight Zone. This ride features randomised drop sequences, and I'm sure you get more drops here than on the Florida version. You're thrown up nearly 200 feet at its peak, and you're pulled down rather than just dropping for a faster than falling drop experience. All in, I never fail to come off this ride without grinning from ear to ear. This ride's also well worth doing at night, as you get to see the whole park lit up whilst you're sat waiting to drop. And at number 1, whilst there are Big Thunder Mountains all over the world, not all Big Thunder Mountains are made the same, and the one in Paris is without a doubt the very best of the best. Situated in Frontierland, this was the 4th and final Big Thunder Disney built, and the Imagineers did everything they could to plus this ride, from the theming and scenes, to the extra drops and some unexpected airtime, to having the ride go under a lake and onto a private island, which is beyond cool. At around 3 minutes long, this ride also has great length, and honestly, I've ridden this 5-6 times back to back, and every time I get off this I want to go straight back on again. My top tip for this ride is to get into the queue 1 minute before the parks are set to close, so get in the queue just before. Not only will the total wait time be way lower than advertised, but if you're lucky you'll catch a few glimpses of the fireworks as you race around the track. Let's cover a few of the top tips to cut down on some of the wait times. The first one, and by far the most popular, is to rope drop. If you're staying on Disney property or if you have a gold annual pass, you get access to the parks an hour before other guests. You can get a serious amount done in this hour. In the Studios Park, Hannah and I have been able to ride Crushers twice, Tower of Terror and Web Slingers, all before the park opens to the rest of the day guests. Another top tip is make use of that single rider queue where available. Quite a few of the big rides will have a single rider queue, and this is often 60-70% shorter than the standard queue. Just remember, if a group of you go into that single rider queue, you will be split up. Another tip is to use fast passes strategically. Check on those wait times. If you're looking at an hour and a half wait, it's often worth spending €10 to skip that queue. And our final tip is to take advantage of wet or poor weather. On our last trip it rained from around 7 PM right the way through, and with a poncho we carried on, and I'm not kidding when I say pretty much all of the rides were 10-15 minute waits maximum, We spent 3 hours packing as many rides as we could in, and we absolutely got value. Before we wrap up, let's cover a few thrill rides that just didn't make the list. First up was the RC Racer. This is a great ride, but often has waits that for us are just too long. It's slow to load and unload versus the ride time. This said, there is a good thrill factor here, and the views you get on the top of this ride are stunning. It's also a great way to peek behind some of those construction walls and see how things are progressing. The other ride that didn't quite make the cut for us was the Indiana Jones ride. Whilst I love the theming of the queue area, and at night this really sits well into the overall land, unfortunately for me the ride is very short, very rough, your head's thrown around all over the place. I'd love to see Disney replace this with the American version of this ride or something else, as for me it's just far too uncomfortable to make it into my top 5. We hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we have a top 5 family rides and top 5 attractions for non-ride fans coming out over the next few months. If that's something you want to see, please subscribe, like and hit that notification button. And this is Adam, and until next time, just keep swimming.